What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. You are here with your best girl, Sarah, and I'm here with my best girl, Sav. Sav, how's it going?
Hi guys. Happy oh my gosh, I'm like getting confused on what days these are coming out now.
This is going to be like 2 days after the election.
Oh my gosh, we're
Yeah,
all going to by the time this comes out, you guys will know who the president-elect is. In Jesus'
that's
name,
crazy.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Unless something
hopefully.
crazy happens. But I'm believing
Literally.
for a very normal election day to happen in the
Please.
next several days. But yeah, no, doing well over here. We had such a fun Halloween this past week. We did Halloween for Calvin last year, but he was only like 4 months old, and so it was really just like dressing him up cute and then passing out candy at our house. But this year we went and picked out a costume. He chose Bluey. Nobody's surprised. He like dressed up as Bluey. We went down to, so we live in Erie, but there's a little town over called Lafayette, and there's a bunch of like really cute old houses and like people who have been there for decades. And so we went trick-or-treating over there, and Calvin had never been trick-or-treating before, and he was a little bit freaked out at first, but once he realized that people were giving him candy, he was like, oh, this is sick, I love this. And so we went trick-or-treating. He had a blast. It was so much fun. He was like running around, and then we went to dinner at this place called Tio Cali, which is one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. And yeah, Calvin ate his weight in guac, and we had a bunch of tacos, and we hung out with some of our friends who have 2 other little boys, and they just had a blast. And they were all like hyped up on candy by the end of the night, and they're all like running around outside the restaurant, and it was just so fun. Like Halloween is so, and I would assume that all of the holidays are going to be like this. It's so much fun with kids. So yeah, it was really
That's
fun.
so cute. That just sounds so like suburban mom of
I
you.
know.
Like, it's like we took the kids trick-or-treating, then they played outside the restaurant. Well, like it just sounds so suburban
Who am I,
mother.
honestly?
It's so crazy.
It really
Like
is. I know.
I love that obviously like your mom, so many of my friends are becoming moms, and like most of the time I'm not like I'm aware that you have a child who lives with you that you take care of. But like I'm not all the way aware all the time that you're like their mother.
Yeah.
And so when I catch these glimpses of you like talking about Halloween like this, I'm like, whoa. Like she is a downright suburban mom.
It's a whole persona. I know.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. And then later, so that was Thursday night, and I told Christian because we're going to be out of town for a week for Thanksgiving, and then we also just found out on Halloween night because my mom begged me for us to come home for Christmas, and so we're coming to Birmingham, I think, for a week for Christmas. And so I don't even know if I've told you that or not.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so we're gonna be in Birmingham. We're also trying to work out where we're either going to drive to Daphne to see my grandparents while we're there, or we're going to drive to Atlanta to see some of my siblings. So if we drive to Atlanta, I'll hit you up, but I'm sure you're going to be in Birmingham at some point too.
Yeah.
So our
We'll
paths
figure
will
it out.
cross at some point
Yes.
around Christmas. But because all of that is happening and all of the travel is happening, I said, listen, the day after Halloween, the Christmas tree is going up, and I don't care what you have to say about it. And that's what happened. So we decorated the Christmas tree. We like rearranged the living room a little bit, did some cute little shelving with little Christmas snowy houses and beads and lights and all the things. And it is just so festive in the Chavez household. And Calvin has had, again, like so much fun with kids. He's had a blast with it. Like he just thinks it's the coolest thing. So yeah.
That's so cute. That's so cute. No, unfortunately, I said, I think it was last week, like it was my goal to have the Christmas tree up by the election. I'm not waving the white flag yet. I'm not surrendering yet, but it is getting less and less likely.
You still have about 24 to 48 hours. So
it's just getting less and less likely because I told myself, and really it is for my own mental health, because we have behind one of our couches, like you really can't see it unless you stick your head behind the couch. There's still just boxes and boxes of wedding gifts that like we just didn't have room for. And so they've all just been sitting back behind that couch. And so then I had Jonathan we bought this cabinet thingy off of Amazon I'm like, I need you to build this. And of course that was a massive box in the way. So there's so many boxes everywhere. Yeah. I think he's going to kill me with all these boxes. I'm not even kidding. Like he every day he asks me, he's like, are we done getting boxes yet? I'm like, no, like, we're not done yet. And like, it was the worst today because we live on like the 3rd floor of our apartment. And we were carrying groceries. So we both had 2 arms full of groceries. And we walk up and there are boxes in front of the front door to where you could not walk in. And I got up the stairs first and I stopped and I was like, you're kidding. And I was like, me and like,
there.
exactly, don't move. I've got to get the UPS and FedEx guys' numbers and be like, guys, please, only when he's not home. Like, I'm not, it's not that he knows, like, these aren't even things that, like, I'm buying that I'm trying to hide from my husband. It's just wedding gifts are still coming.
Oh
and
my gosh.
And it's because so much was like, if it was back ordered or whatever, it was out of stock and we had to, like, do a substitution or something like that. So they're just still trickling in. And so then he gets to the top of the stairs and he sees it. And now, I feel like he will deny that he kicked one of the boxes. But I did have to tell him, I'm like, wait, be gentle, because I think these are picture frames. I'm like,
these
don't
be ceramic. The glass.
These are going to be heirlooms one day, please. And I was like, no, be gentle, stop, wait. And so I'm over here tending to these boxes, and I think he would never say this, but in his head, he is probably like, if I see another box come to this door, we're moving. So we
are moving to where they cannot find us.
Exactly. Do not forward our mail. We don't need any more mixing bowls. We don't need any more measuring cups. We don't need any more platters. Like, no more. So I say all of that to say that this big cabinet was also a massive box taking up. I'm like, babe, I need you to clear that big box and build this for us so that all of these smaller boxes I can unpack and put them in this big giant cabinet that you're building.
This is a game of strategy.
Exactly. It's linear. You have to do one, then the other. First this, then that. And so, sweet thing, he finished putting together the cabinet last night while and I told you before we started recording, if I look like I've gotten no sleep and I've been crying, the answer is yes. We did not go to sleep till 2:00 in the morning because I was working on thank you notes.
Oh my gosh.
Brides, if you are listening, especially if you had a relatively large wedding, which I guess like 160, 70, whatever, however many, 100, whatever people were there, counts as a large wedding. Uninterrupted. I did not do anything else. The only thing I did was stick a frozen pizza in the oven and scarf down 2 pieces. That's the only thing I did to stop. I think I only went to the bathroom once. I'm not even kidding. I didn't even let myself pee. I worked on thank you notes for 9.5 hours. I was crying by the end. And I had not started.
That's not good for your arm muscle.
My hips were so tight. My hand was like this. It was like a claw. My little left hand was like full on claw. And I was like, I can't do this. I don't even know what to say. And on one of the cards, I kept writing there wrong. Like, we were so happy to have you there. And I kept writing the wrong there. So I have to like exit out. I'm like, I forget it. I've already put a stamp on this. I'm not redoing it. We can't waste stamps. Cross it out right there. And then it's like, you're writing thank you notes. And I'm sure this happens to other people. It's been a month. I can't remember. Like I told you guys at the reception, I didn't know where I was. Like I'm floating. And so it
has to be written down. Truly.
I'm looking and I'm like, I'm calling my dad. I'm asking Jonathan. I'm like, were they there? Like this person that I've written this note saying thank you for the gift, but more importantly, like thank you for being there. I'm like, were they there? And Jonathan's like, no. And I'm like, oh gosh, no. Okay, I got to start that one. I do have to start over. Let's throw that one away. Like I do have to start over on that one. So that was absolutely insane working on thank you notes. But that monkey is off my back. All I have to do is buy stamps and stick them in the mail tomorrow. Which, let me ask you this. I don't know if you know this because I need to Google it if you don't. I have a friend who lives I believe she lives in Germany. And she got me a wedding gift. How many stamps do I need to put on that thank you note?
I'm not your girl. I'm not sure.
I'm like, I thought 4. I'm like, I don't know why, but in my mind, I'm like, I feel like 4 feels good. But then also it's like the United States Postal Service.
Yeah. USPS does do international though. I've shipped international with them. But I think if you just tell them, they'll tell.
Surely. Yeah. I think so
too.
But
you should probably just like buy some domestic stamps for all the other ones. And then there might be like an international postage stamp you have to put on there for that.
Yeah, maybe I can catch the mail lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably just have to do that. But that was the part of, I did tear up a little bit doing thank you notes, but then crying. I just finished crying like an hour ago because I've been watching The Resident.
Oh.
Savannah, I have not cried at a TV show or a movie, and I can't tell you how long. But This little kid had cancer And his brother, who was a little bit older, like they went to the hospital for the brother because the brother broke his wrist. Of course, it's a single mother. And then they find out that the brother's is his cancer came back, and he wanted to grow up to be a police officer. But what killed is when he was laying in the bed, he was talking to the doctor. He's like, I'm not going to grow up to be a police officer. And the doctor's like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? He's like, I'm not going to grow up at all. The way I couldn't be controlled. And I think that Jonathan was just sitting next to me, like rubbing my arm. He's like, it's not real. What if it is? What if it was? It could be real.
It's real for someone out there. It's real for these kids on the St. Jude's commercials that I see on YouTube.
And so childhood cancer just ate my lunch.
Oh my
and
gosh.
when I'm talking like snot, like was sobbing. And then like
it's literally like My Sister's Keeper.
Dude,
did you ever watch My Sister's Keeper?
Yes,
it was too
yes.
much. It was too much.
And it's like some stuff we don't need a reenactment of. That's why I fell off of like This Is Us, because it just got a little too real. You know, the realities of like people getting sick and dying, and that's why during COVID, guys, I kid you not, I probably watched exclusively comedies from 2020 to like 2023. Like I couldn't watch like not action, not rom-coms, not anything that made you sad. Like I exclusively watched things that had a laugh track in the background. Like because I can't.
Like what is the point of creating TV that's exactly like the absolute despair that we experience in everyday life? Why do I want to experience that outside? Like I watch TV to escape.
Thank you. And I keep seeing this on Instagram right now, like the time falling back, whatever. And it's like this meme of like, so you're telling me like society as a whole is hanging on by a thread, and now we're choosing for it to get darker sooner.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I'm like, accurate.
Terrible decisions. Terrible.
Accurate.
Okay, another funny thing about time change. I remember in Miss Crystal Lamar's class. Crystal Lamar, if you're listening to this, shout out to you, sister. Do you remember the essay that we had to write in her class where you had to? It was like a. Don't ask me what kind of essay it was called. Like, you know, there was like the different kinds of language essays that you were supposed to write, but there was one that was like you were supposed to argue for or against keeping time change as a practice in the United States. And I wrote this whole essay, and now when I think back on it, I wrote it backwards. Like I wrote it as if you spring backwards and fall forwards in time. Like I'm an idiot.
I still, though, no, you're totally not, because I don't totally have a firm grip on the time change. Like I was talking to Jonathan, I'm like, so did we get more sleep or less sleep?
Right. Yeah.
Did we?
It's not intuitive. Oh,
no, it's absolutely not.
We gained an hour of sleep.
We got one more hour of sleep. And yeah, I think he said the same thing, because he's like, because if this were the time it was yesterday, we would have already been in church, and now we're just on the way to church.
Yeah. I appreciate that this is how it works, because in the spring, it's like, it sucks that you lose an hour of sleep, but you gain an hour of sunlight. So it's great. But in the fall, it's like, it's getting dark earlier, but I gain an hour of sleep.
Right. So trade-offs. And we were on the way to church this morning, and we are in, as I'm sure like a lot of churches are, or I shouldn't say a lot, because I think At the Movies is a relatively maybe newer concept, but it's the movie season. And so I had me a big old Diet Coke and I think a popcorn at 10:30 this morning.
Perfect.
And so I felt like a picture of health. The movie was Armageddon. Have you ever seen that?
No, but I love End of the World movies.
I was so stressed. I was screaming at the screen in church.
And it's not even the full movie.
Wait. I know. It was so good, actually. It's like Bruce Willis, like young Ben Affleck. Another guy who looks very familiar, whose name I do not know.
Movie.
Yeah,
1988.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually really good. But it's an End of the World movie. It's right up your alley. You would really like it.
End of the World movies.
But yeah,
like
for
2012
you guys,
was such a good one.
If you guys don't know, so At the Movies, the church that like Sav and I got saved in, and then also the church that I'm at now, and a lot of churches kind of associated with the church that we got saved in. It's a thing where they like kind of edit together a video, and they find like a gospel message or a biblical truth inside the plot of the movie. So it's like they play a little bit of the movie, and then the pastor like connects it back to like the Bible, and then they play more of the movie, and the pastor connects it back to the Bible. And it's like kind of the equivalent of how in the Bible, when Jesus told like parables or like stories to like give you like a real life example of something, it's kind of like the modern day version of that. And it's really cool and it's really fun. And I met a girl today. Her name is Daphne. I don't know how she would ever be listening to this, but if she is, shout out to Daphne. And I am now obsessed with the name Daphne. Love it.
It is a
Need the
very
name
cute
Daphne.
name.
And of course, every name I bring to the table, my husband hates. So if you guys would all
What is it?
join
What
me in
names
prayer,
does he like?
he has no. Thank you. He doesn't have any. He has
Like, listen,
no.
you're bringing me problems and no solutions.
Bring me
So
solutions. I'm
yeah.
all about the solution. You got to bring me some names. But I brought several names. I brought several names already, and we are not obviously we are not expecting. But whenever we are, Lord willing, like I gotta have some names in the bank. And all the names, like as like a girl, like you make this list of baby names.
Yeah.
Girlies out there who are not married, be prepared for your list to get crumbled up and thrown in the garbage. Because just because they're your dream names does not mean they're your partner's dream names. And he will try to give them to a dog that you'll never have. So just know.
I like them for a dog.
Like, you're kidding.
These
Twitch,
boys don't know a
twitch.
good thing when it hits them in the face. I'm
They
telling you.
don't. They
really
absolutely don't.
I love that everybody's in the holiday spirit though. And the cool thing about at the movies that I remember from the church that we both used to go to is it was like one of the most fruitful things in terms of like how many people would decide to follow Jesus that
my
the church
gosh.
did all year. Like it touched
Yes.
so many people, and like
Mhm.
movies just speak to people.
They do. And I think it's like it's one of those where like every Sunday it just is. I think that like we probably all aim for every Sunday to feel super approachable, but I just don't know that anything's more approachable than like a movie and a Diet
Yeah.
Coke and popcorn.
Exactly.
It's
Like
just,
who doesn't want to come to that?
that's what I'm saying. It's so approachable. It's such an easy like get an invite. And you're right, like movies are already stirring and moving, and then you pair that with the gospel that we know, stirs up something that's inside of all of us just innately as humans. And it is, I think, like in the first service today that usually, and don't quote me, but I think where there usually might be like 170 something people, there were like 250 people or something crazy like
Wow.
that. Yeah,
Dang.
just in the first service. And it was
That's
like on a dreary, gloomy Sunday, like the earlier service. So just that many people came was crazy.
I love
So
that.
yeah, I love at the movie season. It's so much fun. All the people dress, but I also notice too that I'm getting older because people are dressed as movie characters that I know nothing about. Like
I forgot they do the movie character
Encanto
thing.
girl.
Yeah.
I don't know,
any of those.
Esmeralda or someone. There are lots of Bluey characters who I don't know.
I would know all this. I would know
Paw
all this.
Patrol. I don't know the Paw
Patrol.
Patrol folks.
Yep.
So
Anybody from Bluey, that's really the only show that Calvin cares anything about. So anybody from Bluey, I'm
you would know.
familiar with. Yeah,
I'm familiar.
but I'm familiar with them. But okay, speaking of like holiday things, I have a bit of a controversial question for you because we've been talking about this all week.
Please.
What are your thoughts on Christians celebrating Halloween?
Oh,
Like, how do you think that? I don't know if you guys did anything for Halloween this year, but like, especially once you have kids, what are your thoughts on like letting them participate in Halloween?
Truthfully, I don't like theologically and like the technical stuff I don't know enough about, like in terms of like the origin stories and the demons and the this, that, and the third. Like me, Sarah, if I was just an individual by myself, I'm not but to me, like Halloween and yoga all kind of fall in the same like bucket for me. Like I'm not that pressed about either one, just like my personal convictions. Like I'm gonna do yoga. I don't really have a hot button conviction on Halloween, but I know that like our kids aren't gonna do like we won't do like trick or treating or anything like that. Like it'll probably be like whatever fall festival the church has. So I think that like as a household, we probably have more of like but it was one of those like, hey, if that's our household conviction, like even if it's not something that I'm like up in arms about, I'm cool with like better safe than sorry, because I also like I think that they're different modes of Halloween too. I think that like the fall festival in like the town square or the church parking lot is very different from like demonic movies and Ouija boards, and if that's how you even pronounce it. Like I definitely think that it's fair to acknowledge the spectrum just as much as like with yoga. There's the yoga that you take in your local gym in the suburbs, and then there's like you're in the mountains of India, worshiping a statue while you're doing yoga. Like I feel like
right, yeah,
you've got to I like context, and so I do feel like we have to observe the spectrum and provide context for what we're talking about. So I think, no, like as a Christian, I don't think I'm personally anti Halloween in the like just in terms of like fall celebrations, but I am obviously, as I'm sure you are too, anti anything like demonic and weird. But like
Yeah.
Bluey and Reese's cups, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That's kind of how I am too. And the reason I started thinking about it so much this week is because some of the friends that we met up with for dinner, they were not taking their kids trick or treating. And it's so interesting because growing up, I don't know, did you ever come to my neighborhood for Halloween growing up?
Yeah, yeah.
That it was
Your
the spot.
it was
The
a
spot.
massive kid. I mean, but like that was also Savannah lived in the neighborhood where like people dropped their kids off in Savannah's neighborhood to do Halloween things.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. Like
yes.
it was very kid friendly. And it was all after dark too, but like
Mhm.
kids were out on these little like hey tractor ride things and like it's just there's kids everywhere. They all but shut down the streets because there's so many kids out. And so I just like I loved dressing up and trick or treating for Halloween. But I think the more that I've thought about it, I don't know if our child slash any future children, I don't know if we'll do trick or treating after dark because I don't want like if I see Calvin, for example, like if he starts to like interact with like when you go to Costco and there's all these like big scary Halloween statues, he doesn't care that much about them right now, but I feel like this time next year they're going to terrify him. And so I'm
Mhm.
like there's no reason for me to be like allowing you to interact with things that number one are fake and people just dressing up, but that's just going to like instill fear in you.
Mhm.
Um so I don't want all of that happening with our kids around, but I do think I loved the dressing up. I loved the like going out getting candy, like doing something for it. But I
Mhm.
also like never really did the trunk or treat thing as a kid, and I'd probably be open to that as well. But as you were
Mhm.
talking, I was also curious about like the origins of Halloween because I didn't know it either. But
Mhm.
according to Google, it's a
Mhm.
Celtic festival of Saman. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word. I'm just going to humiliate myself. But it marked the end of summer and the beginning of the new year. But the Celts believed that the spirits of the dead would roam the earth on the night of this festival, and so they would celebrate with like bonfires and dancing, and they would like have the bonfires to ward off evil spirits and whatever. And I have seen this girl that I used to work with. She lived in Spain for a year, I think. She and her husband after she quit her job, and it's like a huge thing in Spain to celebrate that specific festival. And she said it was so creepy.
Mhm.
So that kind of stuff we're not gonna
I'm out
participate
on.
in. And like there's a lot of people that we went to high school with who were just like Halloween people. Like you love dressing
Mhm.
up as the dark character, you love doing like the all night thing, going to the bar and whatever. And okay, have you heard of you know who Heidi Klum is?
Mhm. Yeah, Heidi is it
She
Heidi Klum? Heidi Klum? Is that
Maybe
the
it is
same
Heidi
person?
Klum. Yes,
Yeah,
same
yeah,
person. She used to be a Victoria's Secret model,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
apparently she does this crazy Halloween party in New York every year called Heidi Halloween,
Mhm.
and it's like this huge thing that people get invited to. There's a ton of celebrities, but I saw this girl that I follow. She got invited to Heidi Halloween, and it looked crazy. Would never go, but
Yeah.
it looked
No.
like a scene.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that like I don't know. I think like the harmless. I almost think if I can take Halloween and give me the candy, give me the dressing up, give me the fall vibes, but leave all the other stuff, then it's great.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Like after dark, you can't really like shield from all the other stuff.
Hmm.
You know, like you can't
Yeah.
really keep like the lighthearted, like pure version of it.
Mhm.
And then also, I do think there's something for, and this is where it's like, I can't imagine like just being a parent and like making these calls because it's like you don't want to like why would you like make put your child in the face of something scary for no reason, but also like not wanting them to be afraid. And I feel like that like part of it with like the I feel like I'd be that mom like screening all the count like the Halloween candy, like is there like a hole punctured in this or something, like are weirdos like putting razor blades in your Reese's cups or something like that. I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like that was something that happened in like the 80s or 90s, like way back in the day, but still like I almost feel like the church trunk or treat thing is at least like mildly safer or
Yeah.
like some sort of like community thing. Like almost you said that you guys went to like this like community with all these old houses and people have been there for a while, like something that's more like
Mhm.
contained versus like a bunch of weirdos, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because it's like you would think that nobody would be out to like instill terror in little children. But lo and behold, they are. Lo and
Lo and
behold, there
behold.
are the people who dress up like Michael Myers and stand on the street corner after dark and terrify your children. And
And like, get a life.
just do something better with yourself. Oh my
Seriously, like I'm embarrassed for you. Like, get a life. I mean, or
It's
like
just
go
so awkward.
someplace where everyone's doing that. But like
Yes, like if
where
you
the
wanna be scared,
kids
go
are,
work in a haunted house. Like go work at Sloss
exactly.
Furnace in Birmingham.
Where the kids are, like let's leave those like safe kid-free zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just don't. I agree. Like I think that kind of stuff just kind of ruins it for everybody when you do that. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, totally. I agree. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for entertaining my question. I was just
No.
curious.
Yeah, no, I don't think it'll be like the Lowry children's vibes, but I do like the idea of like, yeah, if you're like a baby and I want to put you in like a little pumpkin suit, like I feel like I reserve the right to do that just because it's
It's
cute.
on. Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
cute, like some of this is just cute and wholesome and we just like it. Another thing that I've been thinking about this week, but I did not. So admittedly, I said that I was going to embark on, oh my gosh, I was just going to take this. I started to go down one thing. I need to go down this other rabbit trail because Lord help me. I had one of those weeks where I hope other people are like this. I think that you probably are because, again, I'm not that unique. I had such a stressful week this week. I sent Savannah and like, it wasn't even like angry, like screaming at the truck who honked its horn and saying that they did that on purpose, which we've told you guys about. It wasn't angry like that, but it was just whenever it was one of those weeks where like I got stressed about one thing and then I perpetually stressed out about everything else.
Mhm.
So it was like Monday or Tuesday night and I was so stressed out. Just work is like a pressure cooker. That's how I'm describing it. It's just there was a lot of pressure on last week. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the month, like 30 to 60 days to come. There's going to be a lot of pressure on it.
Mhm.
So just lots of pressure. And I just really felt like I was in the pressure cooker this week. And I was talking to Jonathan and I was like, I don't see how people do this. Like, a friend of mine who's like a friend, she's a mentor, she's very successful in my opinion, career wise. Her and her husband do not have any children, but she was telling me that one day she was talking to some of her male colleagues kind of like earlier mid in her career, and she I don't know if she actually said it or if she said she thought it or said it or whatever, but it was this thought of, you guys know all the stuff that your wife does for you. Picture this, I'm doing that plus I'm running circles with all of you guys. Like, sorry, like I do
Yeah.
what all of you do and I go home and do everything that your wife does for you. So like what's up? And I just had that thought came to my mind as I was like feeling this pressure cooker. And I was like, ladies who are married and they have children and they have high, and like my job, like I feel like it's high pressure. High pressure is absolutely subjective. The president of the United States would do my job and think it's easy, like and I would be crushed under the pressure of being the president. Like, so stress and pressure are all absolutely subjective based on the person. But for me in my reality, there are moments where I feel like my job has a lot of pressure. And I'm like, I can't imagine like having the week that I'm having and being married and having kids all at the same time, like without help. Like I don't know how
Yeah.
anybody does that, because then I started down this path because then I'm like, thinking, Jimmy, our kid, he's in charge of taking home the class hamster that week. Somehow he volunteered without our permission. He decides we're babysitting the hamster and now at this point I'm standing up talking to my husband. My arms are flailing. I'm like, and now we're in charge of this hamster. I'm like, now we're in charge of this stinking hamster, and the kid didn't ask our permission, but here we are, we're stuck with it. And then he comes to me looking at me, Mommy, I forgot the hamster food. And it's 9:00 at night, and he forgot the hamster food at the school. So our choices are to either break into the school or go to PetSmart that closes at 9. And I'm begging this man on my knees to let me in the store so I can get some hamster food for our child's hamster. And I'm having an insane, wait, I can't do it all. And it's like, okay.
Well, good thing none of that's happening.
And after I finished monologuing and I'm back, I've calmed back down. I'm like, and I recognize that I'm extremely stressed out right now. So this stress is now echoing into a future that does not exist. And I am now anxious about our child forgetting the hamster food and we have to babysit the class pet over the weekend. and I can't handle it with the week I'm having, and we need to get some help. But like, I understand that. And all he said, he was like, as long as you're aware. As long as you're aware that this is what you're doing.
I feel like I've responded to you with that same response so many times. It's like, at least you're self-aware.
As long as you're aware that what you're saying is not real. And like, you're giving this emotional response to something that has not happened. But I'm like, I can't run this household and take care of a hamster and keep this job. And I'm screaming, and it's like, none of this has happened. No one's asking you to do this. What hamster? What are you talking about? So it was like Monday or Tuesday, and I had already lost it one time this week. But in all of that, I never finished the Donald Trump on Joe Rogan podcast. I do still really want to finish it. I probably won't before the election. Did you finish it?
No, I haven't finished it either. That's that and one other podcast is the only thing on my call as content consumers this week, because the damn podcast was 3 hours long. So how am I supposed to get through that? And multiple other things in a week.
Thank you. Like, I've had no more. I'm the same issue. So for both of us, call as content consumers, we're just trying to get through Donald Trump on Joe Rogan. It's my first Joe Rogan podcast. I've never listened to it before. And we both said this shockingly. I think we were both floored. Now, I cannot speak for anything past. I'm going to tell you guys what minute I'm on right now. I am on. Where is this? Where am I? It's not in my, where it goes. Oh, there it is. I have only gotten in. I'm only 22 minutes in. Okay. So anything after 22:30, I can't be held responsible for. But the first like 12 or 13 minutes in, I sent Sav a voice memo, and I'm like, is it just me, or is Donald Trump coming off strangely, dare I say, endearing in this first 10 or 12 minutes? Like, it was like this, like my brow was furrowed, but my mouth was hanging open. I was like,
yeah,
is this kind of endearing? What? And that was like in the first 12 or 13 minutes. And I think we were both like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I know. I agree. I'm like, I just looked, I'm about halfway through it. And and I think that's the cool thing about this is really the first election cycle where candidates are going on podcasts like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm obsessed. Like, I'm obsessed. Mm-hmm. That's the only other thing that I listened to this week outside of that was Kamala on Call Her Daddy. And
nice.
it feels so much more personal. I love that. I mean, obviously there's probably some bias in all of them because you're like, the interviewer is always going to have like some sort of perspective, but it feels way less intensely biased and like interrogation-y like you feel on a news interview. So I'm just loving it. I'm loving that these media forms are merging and interacting with each other, and I just love it. But yeah, no, I totally agreed with you. And I thought like because really the first big chunk of the episode with Donald Trump was him talking about like his first several hours or whatever in the White House when he was first elected, and being like amazed and so aware, again, at least you're self-aware, Mr. Donald, that like you don't know anybody, like you have no connections in these spaces, and so you're just having to trust people that you can hopefully trust that you don't know that well to help you make decisions. And it was, dare I say, endearing.
It was. And like he, in his own way, being like almost moved by like the presence of the Lincoln bedroom. And I was like, what? Like, it was a side of him that I had not been exposed to or sought out. And so it was really interesting. But I did finish a couple of weeks ago Kamala on Call Her Daddy. What did you think? I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I liked that one too. It was obviously like easier to digest in terms of size.
It was only 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So I thought that the parts of hearing her background were really interesting to me, because I feel like that's where a lot of people are lacking with Kamala, from what I'm hearing, is like people just don't know a ton about her. And so hearing the whole story about like the reason she wanted to get into fighting for people who had been sexually abused, and like the whole story about her best friend growing up and her like coming to live with her and like realizing, I want to help people who are in these situations. I thought that was really cool. But then I guess like really the only policy that they got into was the pro-life versus pro-choice stuff. And honestly, like I hate talking about this on the internet, but I think it's worth saying that as a believer, and like as a Christian, I obviously like I don't agree with abortion, but I always find it very helpful and insightful to hear people talk about, even just telling stories of women who are in these situations, and just hearing other sides of the story. And it's like, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just not as simple as everybody tries to make it out to be on one side or the other. And so I think like hearing the stories is like, there's just the specific synopsis she would give of like this person, that person that she had met with and heard stories from, that were fighting for the right for pro-choice. It's just eye-opening. And not that, again, it's like if anybody who is a Christian and is listening to this is like, oh, Savannah's like a crazy, she's a pro-choicer now, she's pro-abortion, like don't hear me in that. It's just that I think I've talked to a lot of my friends who also love Jesus and want to like live by the way that the Bible plays out, but it's like it is a difficult conversation to say, like, I do not want babies to die in the womb, but I also have a hard time with the government telling women what to do with their bodies, or just like telling them how to make decisions. Because I think at the end of the day, like I am always going to lean towards like the government not intervening as much, which I think is what makes this situation a really interesting fork in the road between like Republicans and Democrats, because I feel like a lot of times on the Democratic side, you are leaning more towards like government support and government help and government intervening to help people. And Republicans are like, no, get the government off my land. Like, I don't want the government intervening on my life. But now it's like those things are crossing. So I don't know. That's like random brain dump, but that's kind of what I thought about it. So
No, I love all those thoughts, and your impersonation of a Republican is really funny. I was her
get
doing
government
her
off my land.
I was Savannah doing her best to impersonate a true-blooded Republican, and hats off, better than I think I could have ever done. And I don't think that either of us would necessarily claim either party as one that we have allegiance to.
Yeah.
But I am pro like just like having the humanity in all of these instances. I was super moved by, I think she was talking about a lady in Georgia who died because she couldn't get, the care that she needed. And when I heard the story about like that gal in Georgia, because I had never heard it until they brought it up on the podcast, and then I researched it and looked into it more. And the first thing, and like when I was crying on the couch to Jonathan, I was like, and like this is, I know sounds, I don't even know how this will play, but like I was like, I should have been there. Like I should have been her friend. Like she didn't have me. She didn't have Savannah. She didn't have you. She didn't have any of our close. She didn't have G. She didn't have Meredith. She didn't have Emily or Allison or Adrian. She didn't have us. And like that's what makes me sad. It's like she didn't have me. And it's not like me, Sarah, but she didn't have us. She didn't have somebody like us.
Yeah.
She didn't have somebody who maybe believed something different, but she had relationship with. She didn't have somebody that she was in relationship with who could help her. And like,
right.
That's the breakdown of it to me. It's not, this has nothing to do with what happens in some, white building in Washington, D.C. That I care nothing about that, actually. You guys can do whatever you want over there. But the breakdown is like, that she didn't have me, and that she didn't have you, and that she didn't have any of our friends who would have put their arms around her and loved her well.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing that I care about. And that's the thing that costs something is to be her friend. And like, I didn't get a chance to be her friend.
Yeah.
And like, that's I think that's the only thing I care about. So it's actually not for me life or choice or whatever. Y'all talk about whatever you want to talk about. But if I don't have skin in the game, if I am not in relationship with someone who could consider that if we're just talking about the issue of abortion, whatever, if I'm not in relationship with someone who might be considering it or could be fall in the group of people who might consider it, I have nothing to say. I'm extremely grateful for anything that has helped keep more children alive. 100% full stop. But I'm just more interested in face to face. I'm just more interested in one-on-one. I'm less interested in a few deciding for many. I'm more interested in the relationship, you know?
Totally. It's like the whole conversation that we had several months ago, probably at this point, about like the immigration stuff, where it's like, if you don't know any families who have come here looking for a better life because it was quite literally life or death for their family if they stayed in their country or not, it's very easy for you to say, like, you should be deported. Like, all these people should be deported. But when you know these kids and you know the teenagers and you know a 13-year-old girl who has a cousin in El Salvador who has like broken the law and now can never leave the country and is facing like this, that, and the other charge and doesn't know Jesus and has no hope, like, and is like considering just like, I don't know. It's like when you don't know anybody in those situations, it's really easy to say like, you just don't belong here, get out.
Right.
But
yeah. It is. It's just the craziness of like these sweeping generalizations. And I think that's the thing where like, guys, you're so smart. If you listen to this podcast, you're so smart. Like, you're smarter than this.
Yeah.
These giant, massive parties, like, and I get it. This is just how things are organized. But this is the fatal flaw. They are built, if there's only 2 camps for the whole country to fall in, that is fundamentally built on sweeping generalizations. Like,
it has to be.
It has to.
It can't, like, logically, it can't work if it's not.
It can't. If there are only 2 buckets that are supposed to hold all, 8 billion of us? Like, if there's only 2 buckets for that, like, it's built on the premise of sweeping generalizations. And if you fall for the okie doke and just sign up for all these sweeping generalizations, like, it just, there's no humanity in that. There can't be.
Exactly.
And like, again, I'm grateful for, because I'm like, Sav, hey, I want all the babies to live. Put me on record, full stop. I want all of the children to live.
And like, I'll make a statement too. Like, I want all the babies to live. And coming from somebody who was surprised by her first pregnancy, what did not feel ready to have a kid, having a child is like the biggest blessing of all time. Like, it is amazing. And I've never met, and I know, again, sweeping generalization here, but it's like, you don't meet a lot of people who say like, yeah, I got 4 kids. Kind of wish I would have stopped at 2. Like
I regret it. Right.
Yeah. Those last 2. Like, yeah, sure, maybe it made your life harder, but like, I genuinely believe that, like, the Lord, that is an inheritance from God for you, that it is meant to bless you. So
yeah, and it does. It always does. I don't know. I think that it's just too easy to criticize and not have skin in the game. And it's like the whole I feel like Tom Brady says this quote all the time. Like, it's not the person on the sidelines who counts. Like, it's the people who are in the arena. It's the people who like are passionate. It's the people who give a rip. And it's like, and that's why too, like, even part of me, again, I love all this is even like a psychological study, because even people who I don't agree with, but they're 10 toes down on what they believe, like, I don't know, I can respect anybody who's like passionate and they're engaged and they're in their community and they're talking to people and they're helping people. And, you know, that's why like people, you know, I know not one single thing about AOC's politics, but I know I like her because you want to know why? She talks to people and she's passionate and she's in her community.
Yeah.
She's passionate. And I think that's cool. As a passionate person, I love passionate people. Even if I don't agree with you, I love seeing people who care about something, and who choose to be engaged and active over being passive and critical. And I think that's what it really comes down to for me. It's like, I want to see, and I'm so thankful for the church that is active and engaged, as opposed to what I hope and believe is a small few who are critical and passive. I really think that they're in the minority. And that's another thing I think to like that I've taken from this too. Like the loudest is not always the majority, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And I think that that is true in all areas, and I hope that people, would believe and see that that's true for like God's people in the church too.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Yeah, and
yeah.
I think like I hope you guys take this as an encouragement to like if you find yourself, because I think I've had different seasons of my life where I feel like I've leaned really strongly in either direction. And in it, honestly, like the only fruit that it has produced in my life is anger and frustration with the other side. And so it's like, I don't really want to live like that. And so if you find yourself in that space and you have a hard time having grace for the people who disagree with where you stand on things, I would just encourage you to like go listen to different resources on both sides. And we talk about this on the podcast all the time, but like specifically with the issue of abortion, there's two things that come to mind that I think are good resources for both sides. Honestly, I would if you want just like a different perspective on like say you lean more pro-life, but you want to hear more perspective on pro-choice, I really would listen to the Kamala podcast with Call Her Daddy, because I think the stories that specifically the way that she talked about when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and a lot of the like more conservative people are like, well, it's just up to the state, like they can go to a different state and get an abortion if they want to go get an abortion. But like the story she described of like a single mom finds out she's gonna have another baby, she doesn't really have any help, she's got one best friend who's willing to help, who's willing to watch her kid so that she can go buy a plane ticket she probably can't afford, wait in a TSA line, get on a plane, go have at the end of the day, a surgical procedure, and then get back on a plane and wait in a TSA line to come back. And like she's doing this all alone because she doesn't have anybody, because her one friend is watching her kid back at home. So it's like playing those stories out in your mind is like, holy crap, that sucks for that mom. But then on the other side, if you lean like really hardcore pro-choice, I would encourage you to watch the movie Unplanned. That's the movie that like wrecked me about
Mhm.
abortion stuff, and even just conversations that the movie's about this girl named Abby Johnson, who used to be a director of Planned Parenthood, and she saw what was going on inside of the like abortion clinic inside of the Planned Parenthood, and it just flipped her whole perspective upside down. And she's done a bunch of talks in different places that are on YouTube, and I think that she's got like a lot of insight to give from the
Mhm.
other side. So if you're looking for resources, those are the two that I would recommend, and we'll link some of it in the show notes too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would like echo what Sav said. And if you find like I often do that everyone around you agrees with you, um,
Mm-hmm.
which and that's, I don't, I think that that's probably normal. Like the saying birds of a feather flock together, like that didn't come out of thin air. So I'm not going to criticize or be critical if everybody around you thinks like you and talks like you and believes like you. I think that's just kind of a part of living. But I think an easy way, and this is where thank God for technology that you can get exposure to other opinions, is
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos and podcasts and watching the other news channel. And that's what I do a lot. I don't really have anybody in my life who um, espouses a certain subset of views. So I go and like actively seek out content that I disagree with. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not just on politics either. Like all of this stuff we know all gets stirred up every 4 years, and then give it, 12 months from now, we don't care. Because we're very fortunate in that we're not in the military, and we are not of any sort of socioeconomic status where who the president is impacts our life in an extreme way, one way or the other. So I feel relatively fine. But in just regular life, like I listen to podcasts where like they'll give relationship advice that I think is stupid.
Yeah.
Where they will give financial advice that is horrible. Where they'll give career advice that I think is moronic. But I listen to it anyway because I'm so curious like what other people are thinking, you know?
Mhm.
So let it like I don't know. I think something that I hope to be more of, that I'm not a very curious person, but I want to be. And so even when we get past the election season, guys, like still like engage with content that you're not sure you totally agree with, because it just helps you think and it keeps you sharp. And I think if anything, both of those scenarios, whether you watch the movie Unplanned, which I've never watched but I have heard of, or you listen to Kamala on Call Her Daddy, I think either scenario, my hope is that it like kicks up your humanity. Even if it doesn't change your mind, like you don't have to go from being pro-life to pro-choice off of a 40-minute podcast. Like I frankly,
Right.
I would hope that you don't, because then that means your conviction was never that strong in the first place. So I hope that everybody, be passionate about what you're passionate about. But my personal aim is that everyone would just remember their humanity, and that there are people on both sides who are not sweeping generalizations, but that they are whole human beings who have either been blessed by an unplanned pregnancy or have ended an unplanned pregnancy. They're all still people. They all still bear God's image. God still loves and chooses each of them. So if anything, I think it's more of an exercise in remembering your humanity. And again, like falling out of the mind trap of sweeping generalizations. They want you to be sucked into a vortex of sweeping generalizations that has no name, that has no face. It's a nameless, faceless vortex. And if you listen to this podcast, you're a smart cookie. So don't get sucked into the vortex. Listen to things and engage with people that get you out of the vortex.
And
even if it doesn't change your mind.
Right. And it's like you have to be intentional about doing that too, because like as we talked about last week, the algorithm is going to skew you one way or the other, and it's not going to automatically show you the other side.
Nope.
So like you're going to have to seek it out. So yeah, I hope you guys find it. I really do.
I do. And while you guys are out here doing all this research and looking at all this content, you know what I need somebody to find for me? Like real talk. While you're at it, I'm putting you guys to work. First, the postage about my friend who lives in Germany. If someone can answer the postage question, that'd be fantastic. But also, I need there to be I'm seeing so many ads. Because again, I live in Georgia now. You get way more political ads in Georgia than you do in Alabama. Shock. I wasn't planning for that, but like, it's crazy how in Alabama, I mean, Donald, I don't even feel like he bothers spending any money on the TV stations in Alabama because
why would he?
It's locked up. But Georgia it's a battleground state, right? And so it's back to back commercials of every TV show that we watch is political ads.
Same.
And I kid you not, it's like so Donald Trump is going to give tax cuts to the billionaires and raise taxes on the middle class. Then the very next one, 30 seconds later, Kamala Harris is going to give more money to the billionaires and raise taxes on the middle class. And it's like, is there not a definitive truth piece of paper on who's doing what?
Is there an objective truth anywhere?
Is there any, because Donald Trump saying Kamala's going to take more money out of your pocket, I'm going to put more money in it. Kamala's saying Donald Trump's going to take money out of your pocket, I'm going to put more money in it. Who's lying?
Those things cannot be true.
Who is lying? Like
literally.
Who is there a document in the Pentagon somewhere that has my real taxes and what I would be paying?
In the Pentagon.
This isn't subjective. It can't be. Like, do I need to just pull out my pay stubs from when Trump was president, and then if Kamala wins, do I need to compare pay stubs?
Compare my tax bracket.
Do I need to truthfully, do I need to take my Biden administration pay stubs and my Trump administration pay stubs and look at my taxes, my tax withholdings?
Oh my gosh.
The taxes thing is the one thing that I'm like, wait a second. Somebody is telling me a bold-faced lie on their ad about my taxes. And who is it?
I feel the same way, because all the ones that we see, I'm telling you, I see it 24 times a day, like 24 times a day minimum. And I don't even watch that much TV. There's a congresswoman, I think it's Yadira Caraveo, I think is her name. But I get one ad that's like, Yadira Caraveo always votes the party line, and she's making fentanyl where she wants to be easy on people using fentanyl, and she wants to just open up the border for Colorado. And then another one 5 minutes later is like, I'm cracking down on fentanyl and I'm cracking down on immigration. My name is Yadira. I'm like,
who's lying?
This isn't helping me. If either of you, because I'm seeing both of these, neither of you are helping me.
It's not instilling faith in the system. Like what I would love is, and I don't know how can I get like a theoretical pace. This is what each candidate should do. Volunteer. I'll volunteer. You can put my pay stubs on national television.
Donald and Kamala, if
You
you're
guys will
listening.
be so shocked at how small they are, but you can take them. Take my teeny tiny pay stubs, put them side by side, and you tell me what I'm going to get in my net income, and you tell me what I'm going to get in my net income. Tell me, sit me down, because I can't. Someone's lying, and that's what's driving me insane. Like it's like I can't sleep at night. I'm like, who is lying? Well, how do we do this? The only real way to do this for Americans, it's not an ad. Somebody take this from me right before the election. One of the questions in the debate, this actually should have happened in the debates. They should have had people that worked for ABC News or whatever, bring your paychecks with your names redacted and slide the pay stubs in front of both candidates and be like, which one of, because all the taxes are broken out by line item.
Mhm.
Which one of these line items is going to be lower? Tell me today.
You tell me.
Because I'm sick of it. Like, so there's got to be a legitimate document somewhere with like who got more from our taxes. I need to know. Maybe I should I do like a Trump versus Biden? But yeah, I mean, taxes, like there's really no, I don't know, are taxes impacted by inflation? No.
No, I wouldn't say so. But it's also hard to say because, like, if you think about, okay, if Trump was elected in 2016, it wouldn't have started in 2017 that your tax, like, it probably would have taken a couple of years for any like tax changes to happen. And then same with Biden.
You would think that, but then they're both pointing at each other for like what happened inside their 4 years. You know, I'm seeing this horrible, Kamala broke the border. The border is, she broke it. And it's like, we've been talking about the border for how long? Probably before me and you were born. And she was the vice president and she single-handedly broke the border. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that I hope that people hear and are like, I'm too smart to believe this is true. The same thing for like, Donald Trump only cares about the billionaires and blah, 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 and your life's going to be worse. And it's like, okay, I think you're trying to scare me in that direction too, and I don't think that that's real. But like, just don't call me don't fall for the okie doke. Please, I'm begging you, because they are trying so hard to pull the wool over your eyes, and I just want you to know that somebody's lying to you about their taxes.
We aren't sure who. Somebody.
But like, if someone knows where to go to definitively do this research, like, or if there's a place where like, taxplan.org where I can put in my gross annual pay and someone can spit out like, and seriously, I bet AI could do this, like, based on all of the published talks and articles about these two candidates, this is what AI across all the internet has been able to piece together about their tax plan. Put in your gross income and we can spit out what you're going to net under a Trump presidency and what you would net under Kamala's presidency.
Honestly,
somebody build that. Free idea. Somebody build that. AI could absolutely do it. Just take everything that either of them have ever said and for this campaign, dump it into one place. I put in my gross income. Tell me what I'll net under both of them. And whoever that is, it's a selling point. It's a selling point.
I'm not going to you automatically get my vote, but you're going to get tally mark and you're in a good direction. So
you get a big, that's like the whole Joe Biden, like before I actually just paid off my loans myself, because if you want something done right, you just got to do it yourself. But pre that, I was like, listen, you absolutely can buy my vote. This is a lot of money here. I'm sitting on a lot of dollars. So listen, they said the Americans care about the pocketbooks. I feel like they've said like the economy and abortion, I feel like have been the two biggest things. But I heard this on Fox News that where the Republicans have spent the most money, or where the Trump campaign spent the most money, like late in the game, has been the transgender thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's another one where I've gotten so many ads here in Georgia about where they like pull a clip from The Breakfast Club, which is so funny. And you've got like Charlamagne the God, and DJ Envy talking about how like that clip of Kamala saying that she would pay for gender reassignment surgery for prisoners or whatever. Yeah. And they're like, blank, no, I don't want my tax dollars going to that. And so apparently,
is that the one that at the end, bro? They say Kamala's for they, them, but Donald Trump is for you. Me and Christian laugh at the commercial every time.
And that's the same one where they're like, and she even wants men to pay on our girls' soccer teams, and it's this big old man with a ponytail playing on the girls' soccer team, the girls' basketball team or something. And then you're right, at the end, it's Kamala's for they them, but Donald Trump is for you. And that's where they're spending a lot of advertising dollars. And I heard that was on Fox News. And granted, it was from a Democrat who's talking on Fox News, but still. But I just think that whole thing is just that is the one thing that I'm like, it's a no from me. Personally.
There's just so
no
many
way.
other things that our tax dollars can go to. There's many other things.
Put all that stuff into some AI model, including the gender reassignment for the person. What am I netting? Like that.
Is that going to be a line item on my pay stub? Gender reassignment surgery for prisoners. Because
I need to know. Someone get to work on this AI model and tell me how many stamps I need to send something to Germany. Gosh, I'm bossy. I'm just telling you guys what to do.
This is what I need.
This is what I need from you guys. But I'm also encouraging you that you are smart and that you can see past the fog of rhetoric. And that you can like enjoy this and I loved what we talked about last week, that this can actually be like such a fun study of humanity and like what connects us, what drives us, what makes us make decisions, like what scares us, what inspires us. Like I think that you can pick up so much of that just in like the content that you consume and what you see in the world, like what drives people. And it's actually really interesting. We like it.
We are interesting. We're interesting studies.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I hope that, honestly, my prayer is that you guys don't hear this on Thursday and think, well, crap, I wish I would have listened to this before election day. But too late.
Too late. Sorry. And know that your fate in Jesus is sealed regardless of what happens on Tuesday.
It's all gonna be okay, guys.
We're going to be all right.
Okay.
Yes.
But yeah. Well, that's a great place to wrap up, I think. So, Sarah, what are you excited about?
I think you already know I'm excited about Tuesday, baby. We are having chicken pot pie in the crock pot with biscuits. So I'm already planning on like dump meal. It's going to be hot. Scoop you a bowl when you get in and come meet me on the couch with a hot biscuit because we have got some work to do.
With a hot biscuit. Wait,
that is what we're doing.
That sounds
I will.
good.
I'll send it to you. If it's good, because Pinterest has stabbed me in the back a couple of times.
Make it first.
I'm gonna make it first, and then I'll send it if it's good. Yeah. But yeah, so I've already mapped out dinner, and we are excited for Tuesday, whatever the results may be. It's gonna be great. What about you? What are you excited about?
I am also excited for Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be great. You know what? I'm so glad that we're talking about this because we got asked to go to a soccer game on Tuesday and I cannot.
Can't.
I have plans. So sorry.
Booked and busy.
Cannot attend. I have an Instagram live to facilitate. So sorry. Man.
Oh gosh.
Guys, I hope this is encouraging. I hope that you take our advice and go and listen to all sides of the aisle on all these issues and that you come away smarter for it and more empathetic. But thanks guys for listening to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at Call Me Thursday podcast and follow us on your podcast app so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review and let us know why you're loving the pod. So Sarah, I will call you Thursday.
Sounds like a plan, sister. I'll call you Thursday.
Okay,
all right. Bye.